Each of you represents some of the most powerful criminal organizations in the galaxy. Pikes, Crimson Dawn, Huts.
My name is Jeff.
Star Wars Outlaws is here, and it's gotten a bit of a mixed reception. Some players are loving it, while others are waiting for it to go on sale, and others just aren't interested. But if you saw my previous video with Outlaws, well then you know that I thoroughly enjoyed it, and well, I'm still enjoying my time with Outlaws, so much so that it might be my game of the year.
What?
In my previous video, I listed the top 5 things I thought Star Wars Outlaws got right, and credit where credit is due, Massive Entertainment and Ubisoft did a pretty decent job with their first entry in the Star Wars universe. However, there are some things I think Outlaws missed out on, or at least personally didn't work for me, so I thought I'd list my top 5 things Star Wars Outlaws gets wrong.
Now before we do this, let's go over the ground rules.
Firstly, this video, as well as all other videos on my channel, are my personal opinion, and you might not have these problems with Outlaws. It's also worth noting I'm a bit of a Star Wars fan, so some of the problems or missed opportunities might be a non-issue if you don't overly care or you're not invested in the Star Wars universe.
Of course.
Secondly, I'll be going into spoilers in this video, so take this as your official spoiler warning. So if you're not wanting to know some story elements or you don't want things spoiled for you, maybe check out this video after you've finished the main story.
And that's it! Now let's do this!
Sounds fun. Except last time I worked with rebels, I got a death mark. Save the galaxy.
In Outlaws, we play as Kay Vess, a newcomer into the crime underbelly of the Star Wars universe. We're introduced to her in a prologue of the game, which, similar to the recently released Assassin's Creed games, takes about an hour or so to get through before the universe opens up and we're allowed to explore. But as the story continues and Kay as a character grows, we leave the planet of Canto Bight and have a rather significant bounty placed on our heads by the newly created crime syndicate, Zerek Besh. Now, we get this from accepting a job to break into the crime boss Sliro's mansion on Canto Bight, where our heist partners turn out to be members of the Rebel Alliance and basically leave us for dead inside the mansion's vault. Naturally, we get found by Zerek Besh and Sliro, and after escaping from Sliro, he immediately places a death mark on Kay and a bounty of 400,000 credits.
And who you think you kidnapped, Chelsea Clinton?
From this, after escaping Canto Bight, we accept jobs to essentially try and make enough money for ourselves to buy our own freedom. It's a pretty standard story and overly pretty straightforward for starting off with some character motivations, but one of the issues I had with Kay's story is her relationship with the Rebel Alliance. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the game, we accept a job to break into Sliro's mansion to get inside his vault, and we assumed we'd be stealing money, but we find out that we're rescuing a member of the Rebel Alliance. Once we get there, we're somewhat double-crossed, stunned, and left inside the vault, and naturally, as this causes Sliro to find Kay inside of his vault, Kay naturally blames the rebels for getting the death mark put on her head, and she's not a fan that she was lied to about the mission that she accepted about getting into the vault. Later in the story, Kay herself is recruited to basically return to Sliro's mansion and rob his vault again, but she needs to put together her own heist team, and as Sliro has increased his security from the start of the game, we're needing more specialist characters, so we set out to go to planets like Tatooine to recruit a gunner, or to get a bomb maker from Kijimi. On Akiva though, we need to recruit an expert droidsmith to get past the security droid at the vault door, and the only way the droidsmith agrees to join you is if you work with and help the Rebel Alliance, and Kay agrees as long as the droidsmith joins her cause afterwards, and it has a pretty cool side story with Kay's commando battle droid companion of ND5, but my main problem was Kay's willingness to work with the Rebel Alliance. After all, it was the Rebel Alliance who caused the death mark to be placed on her head, and post these missions too, the Rebel Alliance essentially joined the heist crew, and it just doesn't work, or it didn't work for me.
Well, no. Right, you get him out of it, go on, fuck off.
Kay's character, while loyal to her friends and her companion Nyx, it kinda seems polar opposite to change her mind on the rebellion. Throughout the story, she faces some increasingly extreme challenges. After getting a death mark and a bounty, she crash lands on a strange planet, and then is double-crossed by an early companion, and then has to deal with recruiting a specialist on Tatooine, who essentially sells Nyx to pay off his gambling debts to the Hutts. and Kay essentially fucking loses it, nearly killing the specialist when she wakes up after being knocked out. And you really do get a sense both in the game from the gravity of the situation and the excellent voice acting for rescuing Nix. It is a really cool moment in the game. But then, a few hours later, when we come into contact with the Rebel Alliance, and some of the members who are more than cocky deserve a swift punch in the jaw, to basically go, alright, I'll work with you guys, and it seems kinda off.
That doesn't make sense.
The start of the game showing the Rebels and the Empire in a negative light with being sort of double-crossed by the Rebellion and, well, nobody likes the Empire, but the game sort of played on one of those very few good ideas from The Last Jedi in that both the Rebellion and the Empire are both greedy and evil in their own ways. Rogue One showed us the darker side of the Rebellion with Cassian killing his informants, and I think Outlaws could have stuck with the darker side of the Rebellion. What could have been cool for this situation perhaps is have the Rebellion and the Empire in the reputation system for the game, that you could be favourable with the Empire and they would give you a lot of money for doing dirty jobs for them, but you as the player would feel bad doing those missions. Or you could work with the Rebellion, get paid nearly nothing, but have access to some scavenged gear, or maybe an ability to call in a Rebel assist to cause some distractions for sneaking missions, or maybe access to some premium intel and resources. That way, if in the story we need this expert droidsmith, if he insisted we needed to work with the Rebellion, we could then have the option to turn in the Rebellion to the Empire, get a heap of money, and find an alternate way to get a droidsmith. Like, well, maybe as a reward, the Empire gives us a defective KX Imperial Security droid, maybe. But during my time with the main story, seeing Kay go from hating the Rebellion for what they did to her to basically change her mind sort of felt like a massive co-op to make the Rebellion the constant good guys in the Star Wars universe. I had the same issue with Battlefront 2 with Inferno Squad and the main character of Iden Versio. Before that game released, I read the prequel book in Battlefront 2 that follows Iden, and she basically has to kill a member of her own squad who defects to the Rebellion because Iden as a character believes in the Empire. Yet in the game Battlefront 2, Iden defects the Empire and joins the Rebellion, or more so the New Republic, as it just doesn't feel right, and I got the same vibe with Kay with the Rebellion in Outlaws.
Lethal syndicate I've ever seen, and he wants you gone. You want to live?
As I mentioned at the start of the story, Kay gets a pretty damn large bounty on her head from breaking into Sliro's vault with 400,000 credits, and there's a couple of issues I had with it. But again, as a reminder, Kay gets double-crossed from the Rebellion and left inside Sliro's vault, and when Kay wakes up, Sliro interrogates her, Kay escapes with the help of Nix, and Sliro's knee-jerk reaction is to put a bounty on her head.
I want a death mark on her now. I promise a fortune for whoever can bring me her head.
$100 billion!
And I get it from a story plot point that Kay needs a bounty on her head, but the writing for Sliro's character to go from "who are you" to immediately putting an insanely large bounty on her head makes no sense. Sliro and his goons find Kay passed out inside the vault. And sure, while it might sound like Kay's trying to fast talk her way out of things, Kay does offer to find out what's going on. But, sorry, if I am a rich Star Wars gangster with my own mansion and my hostage is gone but there's someone else knocked out in their place, I'm not immediately threatening them and asking stupid questions.
I can hear you, man. Shut up! Or I'm gonna punch you in the throat!
Hey, stop it.
But the main problem is the bounty of 400,000 credits that Sliro puts on Kay's head. Now, for context, Han Solo had a bounty of 224,190 credits. It was a bounty so large that Han had multiple bounty hunters going after him, which he even mentions at the start of The Empire Strikes Back.
General, I gotta leave. I can't stay anymore.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, there's a price on my head. If I don't pay off Jabba the Hutt, I'm a dead man.
A death mark's not an easy thing to live with.
Well, the bounty hunter we ran into when Lord Mendel changed my mind.
Now, for a bounty to essentially double in this, Kay should have every bounty hunter in the galaxy after her. I also think she wouldn't be able to work with any crime syndicate, seeing as they'd probably try to cash in on these bounties too.
300?
400, 500.
What I think would have worked for this, if the writers stuck with the 40k bounty, is having to face off against bounty hunters outside of the main character, or the main bounty hunter, in Vale, who only really follows you for a planet. But Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor had us face off against bounty hunters, and they seemed like they could really pop up whenever you're doing a mission or just randomly exploring, and we didn't have that with Outlaws. Sure, the crime boss for each relevant gang can send hit squads after you here and there if you're in their bad books, but you should already have a heap of bounty hunters trying to cash in on the 400k. But what could have worked with this bounty that we get in the story is a blending in style system with what we get in, say, Assassin's Creed or Hitman, having a threat level for each planet, and what I mean by that is the likelihood a bounty hunter will find you on a planet and openly start tracking you down and attacking you. Go to Tatooine, the likelihood of being chased down by someone like Boba Fett would be pretty damn high, but go to a proper Imperial occupied world, it could be less because bounty hunters don't want the unwanted attention of the Empire. With this system too, if you're in the good books with Jabba, he'll tell bounty hunters or his areas on Tatooine that you are off limits and that you don't need to worry about being chased. But if you're in the shits with the Pikes and you head to Tashara, you could not only have to deal with the Pikes openly shooting at you, you could have someone say like Dengar trying to chase you down.
I'm the disintegration machine. Want a guy disintegrated? Get me integrated. That's Dengar's motto.
Kay has nearly double the bounty that Han Solo had on him, and she's got a lot of freedom, especially in the world of scum and villainy. And I think the Assassin's Creed blending in plain sight and wearing clothes or capes or hats to hide your face from public and cameras would have been really damn useful. Now, while there are options to customize Kay, giving her gear that will increase how many healing items she can hold or increasing the rate in which she gains adrenaline, something I think Star Wars Outlaws really could have done with was pull the customization over from Red Dead Redemption 2 into Outlaws. Now, this is more so a smaller negative or more personal opinion, but I found it was a real missed opportunity to not use the outfits and environmental aspects that we get in Red Dead Redemption 2, and the options for Kay here in Outlaws are a bit limited. Currently with the base game without the upcoming DLC, but Kay will have gear that will change her look and give her buffs. And if you enjoy the buffs and you don't like the look, you can basically transmog the outfit so you can change the look but keep the buffs, if that makes sense. But having a scum and villainy third-person open-world Star Wars game, I was a bit bummed that the environments from planets don't play a role into the game. That if you're on Kijimi, you need to wear warm coats, and if you don't, you could get sick and sneeze randomly, which would make, say, stealth sections harder in the game. Sort of like when you would play Metal Gear Solid 2 and you went outside as Snake for too long on the tanker in the rain, and you'd get sick. But if you wear warm clothes on Tatooine, you could have crap stamina, or your health would be relatively low. It's a mechanic that was in Red Dead Redemption 2 that I really enjoyed, and I think it could have worked really well in an open-world Star Wars game.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but that's not a bad idea.
We could have also done with some more customization options, like yeah, we've got jackets and pants and belts to choose from, but maybe some helmets, some hats, they would have been cool. And as well as bring over the pistol customization from Star Wars Survivor, because that was pretty cool. Speaking of weapons, Kay's pistol is pretty cool and versatile, sure, but again, kind of a small or personal one for me, but I'm not a fan of Kay dropping weapons after she uses them. I mean, the weapon pickups for the game are super useful, and I kind of feel like we should be able to hold onto a couple of weapons rather than just a pistol. Now, I kind of get, yes, the obvious, that they used Han Solo and his DL-44 for the inspiration, and that Han picks up and uses a E-11 blaster in A New Hope, but we're not playing as Han Solo, are we?
Yes. I mean, no.
It would have been cool to have weapons slung onto Kay's back, or maybe make an aspect depending on what gun Kay is using, the longer it takes for her to swap her weapons out, basically making it the bigger the gun, the longer it takes to holster it. Kay's blaster in the game too, while it's kinda cool, it's a little bit too powerful and it can do everything. It's got an ion shot for taking out droids and platforming, it's got an explosive shot for blowing stuff up. It can do way too much.
It's too much! It's too much!
That's why I think having different weapons could have come in handy, where if you've got, say, Kay's blaster, it might have the best accuracy and the easiest to manage. You could also say keep an E-11 blaster on you, which is the standard Stormtrooper blaster, that does loads of damage, but literally has the worst accuracy in the game, where shots would go where you didn't aim them, and it kind of would have played on the stormtroopers not being able to hit anything, and a Java Blaster could have been a great ion shot style of weapon. It just feels like a missed opportunity. And no, the minigun rotary blaster I would say could stay as a temporary pickup. That shouldn't be a permanent weapon because that's kinda too big.
Need her. And that death mark's not going anywhere.
Now, as I mentioned, Kay assembles a crew to re-break into Sliro's vault, where we go after a bomb maker, a droid smith, a heavy gunner, alongside Kay, ND5, and Nix. We set off to, say, steal from Sliro again. But I'm sorry, this has got to be one of the most boring heist crews I've ever seen in a game.
Really?
Yes, really.
Characters don't flow and interact with each other. Once you get the bomb maker on Kijimi, you barely see them or interact with them, and they're probably the best kind of companion or person you recruit for the mission as well. The droid smith forces Kay to work with the rebellion, and we already know my thoughts on that, but the biggest missed opportunity I think was the heavy gunner. We go to Tatooine to recruit a heavy gunner who turns out to be a dick because he tries to sell Nix to pay off his gambling debts, and that's great, don't get me wrong, I thought that was awesome. But whether Disney wouldn't allow it or just wasn't an idea that was thought of, but an ideal replacement heavy gunner to have, and it would have worked great for character plot between two companions with Kay's heist crew, is to have an old clone trooper, basically someone like a Captain Rex in Rebels, and watch the discourse between ND5 and the clone. That would have been a great story plot point.
I think it's fantastic. I think it's a fantastic idea.
But as the story goes on, our replacement heavy gunner is a member of the Rebel Alliance that, yes, deserves a swift punch in the jaw, and a slicer that turns out to be Kay's mum, who left her because, well, the character development and the story here for Kay's mum is really damn weak. Kay's mum is essentially Bobby Boucher's dad from The Waterboy.
Daddy?
Leaves her when she's a child, only comes back when she's useful to her. It was a story element and character development that was really flat, at least personally to me. Now, yes, there are other problems with Star Wars Outlaws, like the fact that Kay can punch a stormtrooper in the head and knock them out, or the bugs that seem to be plaguing PlayStation players, bugs though that I didn't experience, I'm sorry, on my playthrough on PC. Or the fact that, again, spoiler warning, Darth Vader makes an appearance for no real reason, and I feel like it would have been done better if it were a hologram of the Emperor instead. But these are the main issues that I had with Star Wars Outlaws, and they might not be your issues at all. However, I did really enjoy my time with Outlaws. I'm looking forward to the upcoming DLC, and if we ever get a sequel to this game. But whether you're wondering what kind of drinks R2-D2 serves on Jabba's sail barge, or you think that being stabbed in the gut with a lightsaber is an instant kill, always remember to play with each other and play with yourself.
Let's get out of here.